Good morning. Welcome to Soul of Travel. This is a last minute impromptu um, solo show, I guess. I've never even done a solo show, but this morning I was riding in the car with my girls and we got into a great conversation on Women's Day and why it exists and what the conversations are that are happening today. And so I thought it would be really important to get on here and share some of the thoughts that have come to me today. So it really started early this morning. I was looking on LinkedIn and I was seeing all these posts coming up celebrating International Women's Day, and so many of them were in the area of tourism, which is where I work. A lot of the people that I follow, that is their profession as well. And a lot of people were asking, like, what are you doing to amplify the voices of women? What are you doing to empower women? What are you doing to create gender equality and just so many amazing posts, articles that people were writing. And one, I just felt so blessed that this is the space that I live in, and this is the online community that I've created, and the space that I get to interact in every day because of who I follow and who I'm connected to. And also realizing that that's not the truth for everyone. Everyone doesn't have that same group and that same community. And so I was just trying to feel around what that meant to me. And then another memory popped up for me on Facebook, reminding me that 2 years ago today, on International Women's Day, I was at a International Women's Summit in Phoenix, and I was in the lobby of the conference going live for the first time ever. I had no idea how to do it or anything, to share that I was launching Lotus Sojourns, my women's travel company. And it was such a big weekend. I had never gone to an event that large by myself. I was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone just to do that. And I was going because of the speakers that I already knew that were going to be speaking there, because I wanted to connect with women who were in this space of growth and learning and sisterhood, and really tap into that energy for the launch of Lotus Sojourns, because that's so much of what this company is about for me. And the it was just such a great example of the need for this type of community and connection for women. I was really blown away by sitting down next to someone and just starting up a conversation. And because we were in this space where people were already kind of ready to be vulnerable, ready to be authentic, I got really great connections with people so quickly, and actually carried a tribe of women home from that conference who are now such good friends and have really helped me through this year, have helped me to launch my business, have been so supportive, and have really showed me what it's like to be a part of a community of women that you really can trust and depend on. And then the shared knowledge in that space. I went because Liz Gilbert was speaking, and I have followed her writing for so long. And like many of you, probably I really connected to Eat, Pray, Love, and that story of being lost and really trying to remember who we are, and also love that travel was the vehicle for that journey. And Cheryl Strayed also spoke, and the same that when I read Wild, I just saw what that journey allowed for her, and it really resonated. And I immediately wanted to get on that trail and have a similar experience with a much less heavy backpack. And then also Glennon Doyle was speaking, and again, like just loved her writing. Um, I remember reading one of her early books, and as she was sharing really vulnerably about a part of her life, I remember having this feeling of like, oh my gosh, does she know what she's doing right now? Like, she's telling people the things that you're not supposed to share. And um and everybody knows now. And she kept doing it and kept doing it, through her books and through her sharing. And obviously that's what she's known for now. But back then it was one of the first authors who I had read who just shared the parts of ourselves that we are supposed to hide. And it felt so liberating to me. And so I was so excited to hear her speak. I actually had the great moment of meeting her in the elevator. And it actually wasn't even about meeting her. I'm sure, I mean, it's not like we met, we didn't exchange names. We both hopped into the elevator, and we were both kind of running late for her session, not late but really close to being on time. And there was a time change that night, and then we're also in Arizona, which doesn't have a time change. And we had this moment of this shared experience of being like, I woke up, I felt like I was running late, slept kind of hard, had no idea what time it was. And she was saying that she called Abby and was like, "What time is it?" And called the front desk and was like, "I don't know where I am. I don't know what time it is." And I had the same moment. Like, I checked on my cell phone, I checked on my iPad, and then I called the front desk because I also just, for some reason, couldn't figure it out. And in that moment, what that really did for me was create a shared connection, and showed me like that I had her really on this pedestal because of the way she was able to share. And it seemed like something that someone really special needed to be able to do. And then by seeing that real, like normal human part of her, I could kind of take her off that pedestal, but she could still be inspiring. And I feel like when I travel, that is a moment that I really like to build into the itineraries for Lotus Sojourns, is that real connection on real simple shared human experiences, but it really changes how we see one another. I also learned about and heard for the first time Dr. Terari Trent speak, and I just um, I kind of wept the whole time that she spoke. There was something about her story that really landed on my heart. And then Dr. Christiane Northrup was there, and her daughter Kate Northrup came on stage with her. And again, there was this moment of how they shared their story together. And their connection, their mother daughter connection, was really inspiring. I have three daughters, and it just made me think differently about what our relationship could look like. So I left that conference with my business launched, with like a new tribe of women supporting me, and like so full of hope and promise and possibility. And it was really great. And then 1 year later, which was last March, I celebrated my 1 year anniversary of my company. I had just finished a big travel show and had a full year of Lotus Sojourns with journeys to Guatemala and Peru lined up. I was just getting ready to finalize an itinerary in Jordan. And then I also was supposedly leaving at the end of this week to go to scout some properties in the Southwest to create a US sojourn with Under Canvas, which is a really amazing um, women owned glamping business. Um, and then 3 days later, the world basically shut down as the first case of um, COVID, coronavirus was identified and confirmed in the United States, and things started tightening down, and we canceled our trip to do to Moab and Zion, and that is kind of is where this story, I guess, lands into the rest of my journey, and where, as I felt everything I had worked for with creating Lotus Sojourns kind of fall apart in a breath. And a week later, I was canceling all of those trips. And I had also had a trip planned to take my daughter for her 10-year birthday to New York. And we've been planning this since she was 5. And she was supposed to go on my mother's and daughter's sojourn to Guatemala with me. And all of this, everything just started crumbling, which I know it did for so many people. And I just kind of started to have this overwhelming feeling that, and in my mind, it was this scenario of, this is where tourism dies. This is where everything I've been a part of for the last 15 years just stops. Is, what are we going to do? How are we going to recover from this? And then I started thinking about all of the people that I know in the space of travel who are really just amazing humans, and who are advocates for sharing the stories of the world, and who are so connected to communities around the world, and to showing up and creating these experiences. And I just knew that this wasn't going to stop them, that there may be an impact on tourism and that things were going to change. But I then had this idea that this wasn't where tourism dies, but this is really where tourism is born again, and where it gets to be what in my mind it always could be, this tool for change, this tool for connection, this tool for healing ourselves and healing the planet. And so I started reaching out to everyone I knew in my community and asking them if they would be a part of these conversations, which I had no idea what they were going to look like at the time. I'd really never recorded a conversation, conducted an interview. I just took a leap of faith and went for it. And it has been really amazing. As I was thinking about it today, with again those LinkedIn posts asking, what have you been doing? And I realized that um, by the end of May, I'll have interviewed 36 women who are phenomenal. Every single one of them really inspires me. And as I've gone back and listened to their conversations to edit them and promote them, and find quotes out of the each episode, I'm just so grateful that I have been able to be a part of their journey, to share their story. I listen again. I'm so inspired. It really has nothing to do with me. Like, I listen as an outsider listening to the podcast as if it's someone else's podcast. And I'm so proud of the work that they are doing. And I feel really lucky to be able to sharing their conversations. And so if you haven't been listening, I still have live interviews. I have 3 this week, actually, 1 today and 2 on Wednesday, that you can join me for. And then you can find me pretty much every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain on my Lotus Sojourns page. And then you can also now listen to Soul of Travel podcast, where the first season is live, which was Tourism Rising. And the second season is slowly dropping 1 episode a week, clear until the fall. So you'll be able to listen to the conversations I've already have and the ones coming up in podcast format. But kind of back to earlier today, my conversation I was having with my girls is kind of what connected all of these dots for me. And we're driving the girls to school today and having this conversation about International Women's Day, what it means, my business, inequality for women. Hearing my 8-year-old say, "What? That still exists? That's crazy." And really thinking about, like, what does that mean? Like, does it mean she doesn't witness it? Does it mean it doesn't impact her? Does it mean we don't talk about it? And just really thinking about that. And then also having this parent moment where this weekend, again, my 8-year-old, she decided she wanted to cut her hair. And she wanted the one side really, really short, and this side kind of long. And I was both so excited for her for just like the minute she saw this picture of this haircut. She and I have been playing with it. She's been trying to find her identity and her style. And she saw this picture and she just was like, Mom, that's me. That's what I've been dreaming of. And I was so excited for her to have that super strong awareness of who she is and a way to express that through her style. And at the same time, was so nervous for her because I knew that there were going to be people that were maybe going to be judging her or be critical because it's kind of a funky haircut because it's really short on this one side and it's like a boy style and a girl style, like her little sister was saying. It's like you have two haircuts now. And so I'm feeling nervous pulling up to the school and knowing that I'm dropping her off to kind of like fight this fight. But I also know she is so proud of how she feels. And I try to just arm her with the words that if someone says something to you that makes you uncomfortable about your hair, one, you have the choice not to listen because you know whatever they're saying is not true. It's how they are feeling about it, which has more to do with them than you. And two, that you can just say, oh, okay, I love this haircut, and just be done with it. And so I was just trying to not set her up to expect people to judge her, but also to give her words to express how she feels in this moment. And, it was kind of funny. She also found a pair of shoes. She needed new tennis shoes. And she was like, these are just me. And a shirt and a pair of pants. And she's super tall and super skinny. And so she has always has these moments trying on clothes where nothing quite fits her. She can just tell she doesn't feel like herself. And with the outfit and the shoes, she just felt like $1 million. Like I could just see her being a different person. And when we came home from her haircut yesterday, we were talking about, her making that choice and how proud I was of her, of really expressing herself. And the day before, she had also been sad and she was crying a lot. And we were talking about it, and she wanted to know why she was crying. And I let her know that, that I cry too. I cry when I'm mad. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm angry. I cry when I'm happy. It's how I express every emotion. And I just let her know that that might be how she expresses emotions too. And honestly, I had been getting frustrated because everything, she was crying at everything, and it was really overwhelming. And, I apologized to her and I told her that I hadn't thought about it, but that was really how she was expressing all of these things that were inside of her. And so we had this really powerful weekend together that all kind of aligns with self expression and finding our voice. And I was telling her, I just got my nose pierced actually like 2 weeks ago. And it was something I have wanted to do since I was in high school. I always wanted to do it. And, she's like, well, why didn't you do it? And I told her, I said, I always felt like there were certain things that were expected of me, and that went against those expectations. That there was a way that I felt like I needed to be seen by other people, to be, respected, and to be, um, to fit a certain mold, or this list of expectations of who I should be. And that I told her there was so many kids when I was growing up that had shaved head and long, on one side, or had their nose pierced, like the 80s and 90s skaters and grunge. And I always really wanted to do it. I just thought, man, that would be so cool. And that looks really freeing. That looks like how I kind of feel on the inside. And I couldn't do it because it just didn't fit these expectations of myself that I felt from my teachers and my family, and from, the pages of teen magazine, from the girls that were celebrated as being popular and beautiful. They didn't look like that. And so I just felt like I had to continue to check off these boxes and be who I should be. And as I was talking with her about it and thinking about it today, I realized that this was just like that process of me being quieted. And they were saying, like, how can women not be able to go to school in certain countries? How can they not get education? How can they not be being paid the same? Like, her teachers were sharing that, one of their teachers was sharing that they knew that men and women weren't paid the same wage in their school. And rightly, they're furious about it. They don't understand. And I said, well, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not that somebody just makes a decision. I said it happens quietly over time so that you almost don't notice. And I realized that this was like me being quieted, and me thinking I had to have, long hair. I had to have one earring. I had to not have my nose pierced. I had to not have tattoos. I had to take the right classes. I had to get straight A's. Were all me getting like lined up to be on that path. And even like as I put these earrings in today, I remember the company I work for, Threads Worldwide, when I went and I saw these being launched, I was like, I could never wear those. I wear them all the time now. But it was this notion I had of my own identity that started clear back in this moment. Um, and then I realized that this feeling one way on the inside and then being continually shown another way taught me to doubt myself, and it taught me to question myself, and it taught me to know that I couldn't trust my instincts, because my instincts were telling me, like, I think short hair might be fun, or I think it might be really cool to play the guitar, or I don't know, whatever it was. I just kept telling myself no, because I had to keep checking off the boxes that other people know best. Don't trust myself, trust them, trust the plan. Um, and so I just realized that that was how some of this happens slowly and quietly over time. And then I started thinking about, again, those posts on LinkedIn, and I all the work that these women are doing in my industry, and thinking like, oh, am I doing enough? And like went right back to the am I enough space. And then also thinking about how passionately this last year I've been working towards amplifying the voices of women, and how that feels like a catchphrase, or like, again, like, is that the thing I should be doing? And then I really tapped into looking at who I've been my whole life. And I've shared this story before on Soul of Travel, but like, I've always known, there was some part of me that has always known that making sure women's voices are heard, and making sure women know that who they are is who they're meant to be, has been my path, my mission. I remember getting a book report assigned to me in middle school, I think, about World War One, maybe it was high school, and we're supposed to write about anything that happened in World War One, and people were picking, certain battles, iconic moments, iconic leaders, and I remember thinking, well, I wonder what women were doing during this time. We're talking about all these men who were leaders and um, who were kind of famous for what they did during this time. What are the women doing? They had to be doing something. And so I remember marching into the library thinking I'm going to get this huge pile of books. When I do book reports, I love to get a million books and have my highlighter and write all my outline and then put my report together. And I was ready to enjoy that process. And I remember walking into the library, and there's this section of books for world history and World War One, and then like the one book on the shelf that has something about women, because I've gone over and done the search through the card catalog, and that's the one book that mentions women in the history of World War One. And then looking, and it's like 8 pages. And that really, in that moment, lit that fire for me, where I was like, women were doing more than 8 pages worth of stuff during World War One. And I was heartbroken and ignited in the same moment. And I feel like I've been on that same path. And it just kept going. I always, when we were given a topic, a broad topic, I brought it right into what were women's role in that topic. And then I also, at the same time, had this narrative of what it was like to be in a community of women. And I had one super best friend growing up. She was my best friend from fourth grade until college. I had a few other really close friends throughout that time that were that I was really close to, but I also always felt like an outlier in circles of girls. I just felt like there was something missing, that I needed a deeper connection, and that I just felt like I didn't belong and didn't have value in those spaces. And I remember in playing basketball and volleyball, where we're in these competitive situations, that it just felt so uncomfortable, that competition was not natural, and I really felt out of alignment for me, although I had no idea what that meant at that time in my life. Um, and I ended up stopping playing sports, even though I really liked them, because that competition aspect was really not something that I wanted. And even in college, I still loved playing basketball. I had always, in like middle school, envisioned playing on the college team. And I actually had several guy friends that were on the men's basketball team, and I would go play basketball with them all the time. And I remember one of the coaches of their team coming in once and seeing us playing. And this one man I was playing, I think he was like 7'2". So, like, I could get around him really fast. And I loved the challenge of playing basketball against someone like that. It was different. And the coach was saying, they're having walk-on tryouts for the women's team. You should be there. You definitely should be playing basketball. And I thought about it for a minute, and then I thought, I don't want to spend 4 years of my life in that space of competition with other women. And so I never did it. I continued to play like intramural basketball and do it in a way that felt really good to me. Um, and then I was really thinking about like the groups of women and what that meant, and how I was feeling on the outside of it. And I think what I wanted was really to be seen, like really seen. And in my mind there was also this narrative that that's not what good girls do. Like in my in my mind at that age, girls that were seen were um, being loud, um, being on the stage, maybe, if we're looking at popular figures that were actresses. And I mean, I loved the band Hole, and certainly that was not a role model of people, of what a good girl looked like. And so I avoided at all costs really being seen. And again, like kind of putting myself back into that box of being quiet and being small. And I was also 5'10" when I started high school. I was really like 5'8" when I started middle school, I think. So I literally spent all of this time trying to get invisible and trying to get small and trying to be unnoticed because I was so uncomfortable with how I physically was to be so much taller. And so all of this kind of came into this narrative around why um, finding voices of women is so important to me. And again, back to this car ride, and as we were approaching the school, I kind of mentioned we were talking about education and why it's so important that women around the world have access to education. And again, my girls just couldn't believe that if they, were born somewhere else, that my oldest daughter is almost 11, that this really could be her last year of school, that this could be where her education stops, and this could be where her growth ends. And I mean, she wants to be, well, she wants to be a lot of things, but a neonatal doctor is one of the things that has been on her list. A lawyer has been on her list. And like, just to think that that is not a possibility at all for so many girls around the world. And just having that awareness, not that I didn't already know it, but in the context of my daughters, was really heart wrenching and made me again kind of light that fire for empowering women and highlighting these voices and making sure they're not silenced. Not that these women don't have a voice, but that their voices are being silenced, and creating a space for that to not be the truth, to be able to help bring light to the work that women are doing around the world, is really what I want to and need to be doing. And I had this thought of, oh, the other thing that they said, my beautiful girls, don't they know? Don't men know that without women, they wouldn't even be here? We're the ones that birth all of the men, all of the boys. And this is not anything I've ever said to them. This is just something that they, in their minds, know to be true, right? It is true. And they said, I don't understand why that's not important. And I said, it is important. It's just not always seen that way at face value. And so I started thinking, what if we lived in a world where I was dropping my daughter off at school without any fear that she's going to be judged for her short hair, that she's going to be judged for having a strong voice and a strong expression of self? And what if I was dropping them off at a school where the women and the men were paid equally for doing the same work? What if I was dropping them off at a school where their color and their gender and their sexual orientation wasn't going to dictate what their experience was? Um, what if I was taking them to college and know that whether she's a neonatal doctor or a lawyer or an ice cream maker or a baker, she's going to be paid equally and have the same opportunities that my other daughter, who wants to be a paleontologist or a poet, um, isn't going to be in a boys club somewhere, that she is going to have the same stage, and that my baby girl who wants to be a veterinarian or a comedian, will have the same opportunity and perhaps not have to, in order to be funny, be demoralizing herself as a woman, and know that they would be stepping out onto an equal playing field. And I just, it was such a huge bombshell, I guess, that was kind of dropped on me this morning. And I was thinking, I thought this is just what I loved. Um, and realized that this is really what my three daughters need me to do, and what all of the daughters of the world need me to do and need us to do. So that is kind of a quick story about Lotus Sojourns, Voices of Women, and how I believe that women deserve to be able to show up how they are, who they are, no matter what that means, and know that they are equal and valuable members of our global community. And that really, this is kind of my renewed pledge to myself to make sure that that's how I'm showing up in the world, and to continue to remind myself to examine if I'm checking a box or if I'm doing what's in alignment with my heart, and to keep pushing myself to trust myself and let go of all of those expectations and shoulds that I thought I needed to meet, and really just be who I am. So, thank you so much for those of you who joined me for this solo show. And I look forward to hearing what this inspires in you and what resonates with you as well.